All right, the Fed is continuing to raise interest rates. What does this mean for the real estate market? Hey there, I'm David Greene, host of the Bigger Pockets podcast, real estate investor, real estate broker, real estate salesperson, overall real estate nerd. I own rental properties all over the country in all kinds of asset classes. I run several businesses focused on serving people in real estate, and I make my living teaching people about real estate on the Bigger Pockets podcast and writing books about this topic. And in today's video, we are going to talk about how interest rates affect home prices. All right, this is the question on everybody's mind. Rates went up. What does that mean? Let's get right into it here. Many people, in fact, I'd say most people believe that when rates go up, prices have to come down. Now, let me explain to you why that might be. There is a relationship between interest rates and home prices, but it's probably not what you think. I want you to think about demand, how many people want to buy homes, and supply, how many homes there are. In a perfect world, supply and demand are even. They are 50-50. So there are just enough homes for everybody that wants one, and people want them enough to buy them. When interest rates go up, they actually make homes less affordable. That means demand goes down. There are less people that can buy the homes, and those that can buy them want them a little bit less because they are more expensive. In this perfect world, supply now has to come down a little bit as well. But when I say supply, what I'm referring to are sellers. Sellers have to adjust their price to meet the lower demand. And then what if interest rates go down? That makes homes more affordable and therefore more desirable. That means demand goes up. If demand goes up, sellers can increase their prices to meet this increased demand. This relationship between supply and demand is actually what affects home prices, and people don't always realize it. Interest rates are just a function of demand. They are not the demand itself. And there are many things that go into demand. Tax benefits for home ownership, rental prices, other opportunities completely outside of real estate. What if you can make a lot more money in stocks, bonds, certificates of deposit, crypto, NFTs? What if the environment in America is very pro-business and you want to open a business? You may be less likely to want to buy real estate, and therefore the demand will decrease. That would make home prices decrease. Now, here's the reason I want you to understand that this is a function of supply and demand and not just interest rates and home prices. In the real world, supply and demand are rarely ever, if ever, exactly 50-50. We tend to have a buyer's market or a seller's market. Now, what do I mean if I say a buyer's market? That's just a word that we use to describe when demand is lower than supply. So if your demand is low, your supply is high, they have to reduce the price of the supply to meet the demand where it's at. That puts buyers in charge. They have more leverage, and therefore they are in a position of advantage in negotiating. We refer to that as a buyer's market because buyers have the control. Now, what about a seller's market? A seller's market is where demand is very high and supply is very low. When supply is much lower than demand, sellers can ask for more and more and more money and better terms in their favor to meet that demand. That's the market we've been in for quite some time now. We call this a seller's market because sellers have the leverage. They have the advantage here because supply is less than demand. Now, if you're into economics at all, what I'm saying is common sense, but what I want you to understand is how these factors affect real estate prices. If we've got low supply and high demand, and we understand that interest rates are a function of demand, rates going up make houses less affordable, meaning demand comes down. But has demand come all the way down to supply? Not even close in this hypothetical seller's market. Rates would have to go incredibly high to push demand all the way down to where we are now. Massively high. And in most markets, that is not the case. If you can understand this, you can understand that while interest rates going up, making homes less affordable can decrease demand, it is not going to decrease it so much that home prices plummet like many people are calling for. If you want an equilibrium in housing, you shouldn't be just raising interest rates or adding tax benefits or something. You should be building more houses, increase supply to meet where demand is at. Now, what you find is the closer you get to a balanced supply and demand, the more sensitive the market is to things like interest rate hikes or interest rate decreases. The more sensitive a market is to things like tax benefits. In general, the closer supply and demand are to being even, the more sensitive the market is to different changes. Now, if you live in a market where that's the case, where homes are sitting on the market 90, 100, 120 days, where buyers can be somewhat picky about which house they buy and sellers have to decrease their price if the home isn't selling, you should expect to see a decrease in demand from interest rate hikes, and therefore prices could actually come down. If you live in a market like mine, the California Bay Area or Southern California, where there's still not nearly enough supply. Rate hikes are not going to make our market plummet. There's still plenty of people that can afford that higher interest rate that are looking around, comparing real estate to all the other investment classes out there and seeing this is still the best. And one of the reasons it's the best, inflation. Real estate does better in inflation than anything else that I know. It's one of the reasons I'm dumping massive money into the real estate market, even though rates are going higher. I am hedging against inflation. Now, here's the irony. The whole reason rates are going up is the Fed is trying to combat inflation. And this is something amateurs miss all the time. The reason they're raising rates, the reason they're going up, is they're trying to slow down inflation because inflation's out of control. Out of control inflation means real estate prices should be going higher, at least in areas where there is a lot of demand. Is this making sense? Are you seeing the craziness and saying, oh, rates went up, so therefore prices have to come down, I'm going to wait for the crash? That's not the case. We don't have enough supply. Now, in certain markets in the country, yeah, we do have enough supply. And if you live in that market, like I said, you should expect prices to come down. You're the people that should wait. But if you live in a hot market, if it's something like Austin or Miami, where tons of people are moving to and there isn't enough supply, those areas are going to appreciate faster due to the inflation. The rate hike is not going to slow them down. We might not even see a difference in price at all. Here's a story or an example of how I can illustrate how this concept works. Let's say you're trying to sell your house in the San Francisco Bay Area or Southern California, and you have asked me, David Green, to list your house for you, and I'm going to do a great job. Well, if the average house that we're putting on the market is getting 10 to 12 offers, you can expect it to sell for over asking price. There's more demand than supply. That's why we have 10 to 12 buyers for every house. What happens if rates go up so much that it knocks out half of the eligible buyers in a market? Half of them. That's a wild rate hike. But what that means is instead of getting 10 to 12 offers on your house, you're getting 5 to 6. Do you think prices are going down if we're getting 5 to 6 offers on every property? No. They're still going to sell over asking price. They might just not sell for as much over asking price as they would have before. And that's what people have to understand. This is a supply side problem. An interest rate hike is not going to cause the housing market to crash. It might not even slow it down, other than the investor psychology that says, ooh, there's a rate hike, let me wait. I don't have a crystal ball, but here's my projection. When buyers realize that there are more rate hikes on the way, that the Fed is going to keep raising rates, you're going to see more of them fly into the market and wanting to buy homes. Things are going to slow down for a little bit because rates went up, and there's always a shock. And when people are shocked, they freeze. But once they see rates are going to keep going up, they're going to get right back in and start buying again. This is not a problem that can be solved by increasing interest rates. This is only a problem that can be solved by increasing supply. So until I see a lot more homes in the markets that are the hottest being built, more homes than there are for people that want them, more supply than demand, I don't expect prices to come down. So how can you benefit from this? Well, if you live in a market where there is relative even supply and demand, hold off, wait. You're going to get the benefit going in your favor. The leverage is coming your way. If you don't live in a market like that, but you're probably seeing a slowdown because other buyers have said, oh, rates are up, I don't like this feeling, now's the time to pounce. This is a small window of opportunity you should take advantage of. That's what I'm doing. And if you live in a market where demand still greatly outpaces supply, understand that rate hikes are only going to make properties more expensive. And the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be for you, as interest rates go up, making your payment go up as well. But there's still so many buyers that they're all buying the same houses. What's the key? Focus more on the market you're buying in than what the Fed is doing with interest rates. Understand the fundamentals of real estate, and interest rates are not one of the fundamentals. Overall financing is, but not just interest rates. Don't make the mistake of focusing on the wrong thing like an amateur would. Think like an experienced investor. You'll never hear an experienced investor who made a ton of money in real estate say, I made my money on the interest rate. All right, I hope that advice helps. I hope you like this video. I hope I brought a little bit of clarity to the question of what can I expect from rising interest rate hikes. And I hope this helps you build wealth. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel so you get told when new videos come out. Please leave me a comment below what you think, if this opened your eyes to anything, if it's different than how you saw it before. And as always, smash the like button for me.